of me.
You looked pretty good 5 years ago. Today, not so much.
Thank you. Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 574 of the Dead Robot Society. Even though that number is rather suspicious because we've done several live shows and we haven't put out a quote-unquote podcast episode in quite a while, but we're going to start with 574 regardless of what I have in the can because, well, we've lost track of what I have in the can, so this is what we're going to start with.
What that basically means, folks, is you may have 3 episode 574s in a row.
That would never happen on this show. That would never happen on this show.
No, that would never happen. Never.
Anyway, I'm Paulie Cooley, and joining me as always is Mr. Terry Mixon, who apparently is very grateful. How the hell are you, Terry?
I hurt. My shoulder hurts. I'm having my surgery next Friday, so that's going to be exciting. I'm going to hurt a lot more after the surgery.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. But it'll be good, because then your arm will
It'll be on the mend at that point. Then I get to go through months of physical therapy to regain the use of it. I thought I was doing okay. Like, hey, it's hardly hurting anymore. And get into the pre-op surgery yesterday, and the surgical assistant's like, let's see how this thing moves. Oh! Yeah, it's not hurting me because I'm not putting my arm in those positions.
I remember I had it was when I went to go get my elbow checked. They brought in this dude who was like 6'7". He looked like he should be on like American Gladiator or something and probably kick everybody's ass. Anyway, he's their physical torturer. So he came in to check out my elbow and he starts flexing it and I'm practically screaming. He's kneading his fingers in there to see what's going on. And I'm like, oh my God, this is torture. I hated that subbitch. He was very nice, but I hated him. Fucking hated him. So what the hell have you been doing? We haven't put out an episode in a while for the podcast folk. And if you missed our live shows or you don't watch YouTube, then you have no idea what the hell's been going on with this since April.
I published book 1 of Imperial Marines a week and something ago. Maybe 2 weeks at this point. Pretty close to 2 weeks. I'm 60% of the way done with writing the next Empire book. I had hoped that I would get it done by the end of this month. That's not going to happen. But at least it's going to be done in such a time that my hands on this next Empire book is going to be less than 60 days, and I'll be happy with that.
That's not too bad.
I could do better, but I'll be happy with that.
I'm very jealous. I am very jealous.
But you're a busy man. You're busy massaging robots.
Robots.
Or robot code, anyway.
Robot code. I have been spending a lot of time in Austin where the shop is and working on finishing up software, tackling new problems and everything else. We can get this project going and everything. But if you're interested in some of the stuff I'm doing, you should go. I've got links. I tweeted a couple of them the other day just for people to go check them out. But I'm interested in how that stuff works. But it's always fun as a sci-fi author, so to speak, to know some of the internals and some of the problems and everything else that can go wrong with trying to coordinate things like 15 billion servos all at the same time. Stuff like that could go wrong that we don't ever really think about. We don't really think about that too much. And the kind of mechanical failures that can cause problems. But anyway, all that aside.
You don't want your robot to behave like the one in Futurama.
Bender? Oh, I'd love to have a Bender unit. Oh, that'd be awesome. I'd love to have a Bender unit. Bite my shiny middle ass. Yeah. So, apart from that, though, recording Trident still, and working on Derelict Shipyards, which is, 16,000 words now, something like that. So I get to it and I pound on it a little bit every day and try to anyway. And it's coming together. I think I finally figured out how to put it all together. I think. Maybe. Maybe. We'll see.
You'll find out when you're done, won't you?
Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, so I'm excited to get that damn book finished. I just don't know how long it's going to take me to get it done. But
I've really stuck it to some of the characters in the latest Empire installment. Their luck has run out in a number of ways. And,
so are you finally going to do the horror to your characters, or really back them into a corner?
This is something completely different than that.
Okay.
But I got myself into the awkward position here at 60% of the way through, where I intended to have 2 of the characters along on the main mission so I could have more point of view there, but I've only got 1. I tied up the one that I intended to send with it. And so, yeah, that didn't work out so well for me.
So how are you going to handle that?
I'm just going to have that one character in the place that I need them have more scenes more often than the cycle would normally allow for.
Okay, that makes sense. I think when you're writing bottle stories, and you have a lot of characters, and get kind of crazy because you want a couple of the characters to stick together, and separating them is such a pain in the ass. Right now, I've got 4 teams that are separated on Trident, and I got to figure out how to manage all of that. And one team has 2 different characters that are separated. So
that's sort of what I've got going here. I have 2 major plot threads going through this novel, and the one that I'm dealing with has 2 characters there, but one's on basically an assault mission, and the other one is commanding a ship in space. So they're not really together, even though they're near the same events.
Even though they're together, they're not really together.
Even though they're together, they're not really together. And different things are happening for those characters. So if I want to have more of the combat sequence, I'm going to have to give that character some more face time.
Okay, that makes sense. It's funny how we get ourselves into these situations and then have to get ourselves back out of it.
I honestly don't know how the readers are going to react to what I'm doing to the other characters, to one of the other characters in specific. I think I have crossed a couple of taboo lines in this type of fiction.
Ooh, now I'm really curious. Okay, post-show conversation.
We could have a conversation right now. We could go ahead and, have a little beep and, cut away and have this conversation come back on. And you go, oh, that's terrible, man. How could you possibly do that?
Why would we bother doing that? Why would you make more editing hell for me? Why would you do that?
I would never do that.
Yeah, right. Whatever.
Just remind me when we're done and I'll tell you what I'm doing because it's evil.
Spoiler alert. Inside information. It's always exciting.
He can be bribed.
Yes, for the low price of. No. You have a special day today.
Is it my special day?
Yeah, I think it's your special day. Why don't you tell all of our listeners and viewers about your special day?
I was thinking about it last night, and it suddenly occurred to me that this is the end of July, and that's the anniversary of when I published Empire of Bones. So I checked my phone. I was like, yep, I published it today. So when I checked it, it was the next day. So I couldn't make a Facebook post about it yesterday. I made one today. 6 years that I've been publishing indie science fiction.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you've turned it into a career.
I turned it into a career against odds. I managed to make a career out of it.
Against all odds, I made this work.
This is totally true. A lot of people don't make the jump to doing this full time for a variety of reasons. And it's hard to make it as a full-time writer. And I wish I'd have known some of the things that I know now in the beginning. I wish I'd have done some things differently.
Here's the problem. You're never going to know how to do something until you screw it up the first 3 times.
There's a saying, fail early, fail often. And a lot of writers are terrified of failure.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to kill you. You're going to fail at things. I fail. I do things wrong all the time. And you learn from it and you move on. That's all you can do.
What are some of the truly terrible lessons you have learned, or the lessons you should have known that you didn't have to learn but had to learn?
Tell a complete story in the novel. Don't find a convenient place to cut it off because it's getting long. That is one of the major regrets that I have from writing in the Empire series. Having one book where it was just getting so long that I found a place to have an ending that really wasn't the end of what was being told. And the readers were not shy about telling me about it. And rightly so.
Wow, I don't have that problem with readers.
No, they just complain about how your Marines are.
Yeah, and fucking twats. Anyway, we're writing two different kind of stories, so mine's expected to do that. Otherwise, it would never get written. I'd still be writing it 10 years from now, and oh, good, it's almost ready. It's 400,000 words. Who the hell's going to read this shit? Yeah. What are some other things you've learned?
That covers are really important. That's not really it's an indie publisher thing as opposed to a writer thing.
Right.
But it's so many, the thing, let me step back from that. That is true. What I learned now that I've been doing this for 6 years is how much I didn't know when I started. There were so many aspects of writing and publishing that I just didn't know anything about, and I was afraid to try them. I was afraid to do things. I wanted somebody to show me how to do it.
Okay. You got an example?
When I started writing, before I published my first science fiction book, I was writing erotica. So I was publishing short stories there. But I was even nervous about doing that because once you upload something, then all your flaws are out there for somebody to be seen, somebody to see them. So if I used the wrong format of ebook, people were going to complain, is what I thought. People are going, oh my God, I'm going to put this up there. It's going to look like crap. People are going to complain. So I ended up taking a workshop with Dean Wesley Smith about publishing. Went down to the Oregon coast, and it was definitely worthwhile. And one of the things I came back with from that was a Word document that I could put my story into it. When I uploaded it to Amazon, it was formatted in a decent format. That was before we had other ways of doing this, and it worked. But if I hadn't, I'd have been terrified of doing it until I'd done it at least once or twice.
Or 4 times.
Yeah, or even that.
Wait a minute. How often have you hit the publish button and 2 seconds later go, fuck, I forgot to do X? How often does that happen?
A number of times.
To everybody, even the bigs.
Maybe make a checklist. I say to myself,
what a concept. And then skip steps 9 through 11.
It's totally true. One of the things you learn as a writer and a publisher, that when you've done it for a while, you're not going to do something that kills your career. Well, I suppose that's not true. You can do a few things that kill your career, but they're not going to be just, clicking the publish button.
Right.
They're not going to be just writing a story. You're going to have to do something completely and utterly egregious to go ahead and kill your career, or you're going to have to stop writing, stop publishing. Those things will kill your career.
Oh, is that when my career's dead?
You gotta create, man. You gotta produce. That's one of the things that I learned now that I wish I'd known then. It's much better to set the bar low and produce something constantly every day, write some amount of words every day, rather than being intimidated by the size of the novel. I must get 2,000
words a day. If I don't get 2,000 words a day, this isn't going to blah, blah, blah. Right.
Exactly. But if I sat down and I write 20 minutes a day, if I dictate through Dragon 20 minutes a day, that is 4 novels a year if I do that every day.
I can't remember which of our listeners, I can't remember if it may have been JR, I don't remember. We're talking about Brandon Sanderson and how prolific he is and everything else. I was like, he must write really fast. Well, apparently he writes very slowly. It's just that he writes all day. So I understand what he means. It's kind of like the Pomodoro thing, you go for 20 minutes and then oh shit, I got to go do the laundry, come back, do another 20 minutes. Oh, I'm going to go clean the kitchen, or now I got to run the kids off, to wherever, and I come back and get another 20 minutes. If you keep doing that and writing those 300 word sprints, then shit, that's a lot of words at the end of the day.
What I'm doing for myself now, since I'm using dictation software, Dragon Naturally Speaking,
We're not sponsored by them, by the way.
We're not sponsored by them, no. I wish they'd put out, if they're listening though, they really need to put out a new version. It's been a couple of years now, so I'm bitching at you about it.
Yes, no, goddamn Linux version, you bastards.
Yeah, good luck with that. They just canceled running their Mac version. That didn't work out well for them.
That's because they're dipshits. But anyway.
It's because they bought somebody else's Mac software and it never worked right.
Exactly. They weren't willing to put in the money. But continue. Forget that.
I dictate in 20-minute sets. I tried to find the right length of time where I'm sitting and it's not too short, but it's long enough to where I can go ahead and do it. I'm stretching myself by doing it in one sitting, and it ends up being pretty close to a scene when I do that. So if I'm at the end of the 20 minutes, I may end up going for a couple of minutes more and adding in just a little bit more wording and finishing up a scene. And 20 minutes works good for me. One 20-minute scene a day hits that. It gives me about 1,200 words a set. And so if I can get 2 sets in, that is almost 8 books a year. And that's a great target to have. And that feels like nothing. It's lowering the wall of my expectations so that I can produce more. If I make it too intimidating for myself, then I don't produce. If I say, oh, I didn't produce anything yesterday, now I need to catch up. No.
And I'm never going to catch up. And every day you feel a little bit shittier about yourself. And every day you're procrastinating because every day it's harder to get back into it.
Yes. That is one of the reasons that I don't do word counts. It's one of the reasons that I don't set daily expectations for myself. Some days I'm going to hit things. Some days I'm not. As long as it averages out where I'm trying to produce something every day, if I could write 3 sets a day, that would be 9 or almost 10 books a year at the length that I write them. That would be fabulous. If I did 4, I'd be in that Jake Bible book every month sort of thing. And it sounds like it's not that much, but producing every day requires a commitment. It requires a consistency that I didn't have. I've been doing this 6 years. I'm still searching for that right consistency to produce, where I'm doing something every day. Once I start doing something every day, I'm used to dictating every day now. And so I can go ahead and say, hey, I've done great. Let me see if I can add one more to that just for today. Not forever, just for today.
Right.
And if I keep doing that, then eventually I'm producing more every day. If I'd known this when I started out, if I'd have really known it deep in my bones, I would be so much further along. I would have twice the amount of work that I have currently out there.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I wish I had known that going in as well. I mean, I was kind of doing that when I was working, when I had a job. I was doing that because I'd write in the morning before I went to work. I'd write at lunch. And then maybe if I had a chance, I'd write in the evening, depending on what was going on and blah, blah, blah. So that was like 3 opportunities I had to get, a few hundred words, in some cases, a few thousand. And that became my modus operandi because, other people go eat other places or whatnot. I go to my favorite bar. I'd get my lunch there and I'd write for 45 minutes and they would bring me a pitcher of iced tea. And when it got empty, they bring me another one.
And when you had to go to the bathroom, you were done.
My back teeth are floating. Yeah. That's when you go do your impression of a mule.
I think our viewers probably could have done without that, but thanks anyway.
You're welcome. We talked about this. We talked about this for years. I mean, I'm sure it was going on way back in the beginning of the show before either of us was on about finding that pace, that consistency where you're talking about its schedule. And people, I mean, we've had people talk to us about, oh, I've got 3 kids at home. How the hell am I supposed to find time for this? Or I'm really having time. It's like, man, get some. If it gets that bad, especially nowadays with people not going out as much at all in certain places. It sounds really kind of disgusting and gross, but right in the bathroom, that's the only place you can get some privacy. Do it there.
If you've got creativity coming out of both ends, so be it.
Oh, damn. Oh. Okay, the mule was over the line. Come on.
Hey, I didn't take us into the bathroom. That was you.
Wow. Wow. Anyway, that notwithstanding, I think it's a problem for everybody, and you have to find your own solution to it. Obviously, you've got something that's sort of working, but you want to make it better. I'm trying to get back into my groove of doing that. It's just really hard to do when I'm used to writing outside the house and can't really go anywhere for that.
I don't think it's sort of working for me. I think it is working for me. In the last, I've been using a version of the Magic spreadsheet that I do myself. And until yesterday, I was keeping track of consecutive days. And out of the last 170 days, so 5 months-ish, I only missed a couple of days of writing. I wrote something every day for just about all of those days. I took off the point keeper in there because I really don't care. I just want to keep track of what my average sets are nowadays. Right now, for this novel, I started writing it the last day of last month. And I'm averaging 1.8, 1.7 sets a day. And that's okay. I can live with that. I'd like it a little higher. I'd like to have somewhere over 2. And I'd be happier with over 2. If I was at 2.5 sets a day as an average, then the writing and editing time for a novel for me would be 45 days, and that would be perfect. That would be a great target to aim for.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's not beyond reach, but I can't let myself get torn up because I'm under that perceived milestone. And I'm getting into that mental space. It's not bothering me that I didn't write yesterday. I had other things going on. I haven't written it today yet. So actually, I wrote a scene yesterday, so I haven't written today. And I may not. If I don't, I don't.
Slacker.
And it's not gonna kill me.
I've been working 7 days a week pretty much for months now. And I think maybe I just kind of like finally collapsed to fatigue the last couple of days. But I did something I hadn't done in a very long time. I went and got a video game that I had started years and years ago and brought it up, and I played probably about half of it last night before I went to bed. And I got up this morning, looked at some writing stuff, was like, you know what, that game is still up. Let me go finish this game. So I had a nice 3 hours this morning. It was just me in a game, getting lost, getting immersed. And when I came out of that and when it was all done, when I finished the game, I felt better because I just had managed to get myself completely distracted for once from everything that was going on and every other thing that goes on in my brain. I really needed that break. So it's a good thing to have. And then after I finished the game, what did I do? I opened up Scrivener and I went to work.
One of the things that I have changed is I get up a lot earlier than my wife does. And I'd been getting up and making breakfast and then sitting down to write. I went ahead maybe a week ago and started where I do my first set before I make breakfast. That seems to be a little bit better for me because I'm hungry. Terry needs to eat something, so he needs to write something.
Must write to eat. Must write to eat. I think mornings are the best time to write anyway because your brain is not altogether there yet.
I don't know. I think part of my problem is that I'm in that part of the book where things don't feel like they're meshing together yet.
Okay, I understand that completely. I had the same problem with Trident and the same problem with Shipyards, so I get that. But I solved my problem today, I think.
You killed everyone.
Nope, I killed a chapter. But I did not kill everyone. I did nuke a chapter, which was the best thing to do, honestly. Because trying to fix it, forget it. Just throw that scene away. It doesn't matter. You didn't need to write it anyway, so it's gone. Meshing, yeah. Bringing everything together at the last second. Is this something you've gotten better at over the years?
Sometimes. I'm definitely better than when I started. But I have a few point of view characters, and a lot of times they're all together pushing towards a goal. It's only the more recent books where I've split people up and have them working on things that are completely unrelated to each other.
Now, why would you do such a thing?
Because my mind goes down the rabbit hole and I go, ooh, what cool thing can I do over here that's going to totally be impossible to weave into the rest of the story. And then I have to figure out how to make that happen.
Isn't that when you're supposed to say, maybe that's another book?
Probably, but I just don't say it. One of the things that I've learned as a writer over this last 6 years is that you're writing for yourself. It's great if somebody else wants to buy your books, but you're not really writing for them. You're writing to entertain yourself. So when you come across something like, oh, that is so ultra cool, I have to see what I can do with that. You're going to have to find a way to sell it. You're going to have to find a way to write it into your book and sell it as part of what you're doing. It has to become part of the book, part of the story that you're telling. And you just hope that the readers share your taste. And after a while, the ones that stick with you, they do. They share your taste, even when you get a little weird.
Or very weird.
Or in Paul's case, very weird.
I am not weird.
I wouldn't mention anything about my universe having, a duplicate from another reality there.
Yeah, let's not do that.
I totally get a lot less crap from that than I expected.
I'm very disappointed by that because, I expected a lot more from your fans. I really did.
I must have ran off all of the disagreeable ones by now.
Yeah, except for that one person who keeps reading every book you put out and keeps giving you a 1-star review.
It's a 2-star review.
A 2-star review.
It doesn't even have the grace of being a 1-star review. It's just continual 2-star reviews. But he stopped like 2 or 3 years ago, and he hasn't given anybody a review since then. The community of writers that's been getting his 2-star reviews think something terrible may have happened to the man.
By another writer?
Who knows?
It was a Jay and Silent Bob thing. They just showed up.
Showed up and curb stomped him. Yeah, that could happen.
You reviewed 12 of my books and give them 2-star reviews. You son of a bitch. Don't read my work and don't review it if you're going to do that every time. If you're going to give it a 2 stars, why are you reading?
That is something I learned early on, and I am glad that I did. Never, ever read reviews. Ever. Just don't. The good ones are sometimes worse than the bad ones.
Sometimes.
Now that's not to say that some people, they go out and they take the really awesome 1 stars and go ahead and do advertising on Facebook with the 1 stars.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it makes you look at it and go, wow, I think I need to go check this out.
Some of the 1-star reviews are like they sell the book. They absolutely sell the book. Person goes, there was too much violence, it was too scary, and yada, yada, yada. And people who read my stuff are like, oh, yeah, that's a book I need to check out. Because that's how that works. So negative reviews could actually do a lot for you. And how many times have we both
I've never seen people advertise using 1 stars, but now I've seen in the last couple of weeks, I've seen 2 different people advertising based off their 1 stars. And I thought it was hilarious.
Jake Bible loves his 1-star reviews. He's more than happy to share them with everybody in God. And then, of course, there are the UFO 1-star reviews where it sounds like they read a completely different book than what you wrote.
I like the 1-star reviews on somebody else's book where the package didn't have a full 24 sausage patties in it. They obviously left a review on the wrong product.
Either
it's
that
hilarious.
Or Amazon had a data glitch, which I think that happens so often. Part of me wonders if there isn't something else going on there. Maybe
I would totally use the sausage one as advertising. I would completely and utterly use that as advertising.
Hey, vegan readers, this has no sausage patties.
There's no sausage patty, no sausage in these patties. It's all vegan.
My book
Nothing
is
wrong
vegan.
with veganism. It's not me, says I, the guy that ate the bacon this morning.
Okay, but you could just as easily get a review saying this book has no vegetables in it.
That's when you take and you put one above the other and you use them both in your advertising.
Exactly. This has no food byproducts in it, whatever. Or, when you reissue Empire Bones #1, you should have at the bottom preservative free or something like that. Now preservative free.
I'm waiting for the 10-year anniversary so I can do like Brandon Sanderson. Yeah, right.
Oh man, you probably could get away with some of that because you've got a good enough fan base. You just need to put out one of those 10 book thingies that you put on the bookcase with
Oh my gosh.
those end caps.
Yikes.
Yeah. Yikes is right. Yikes is very much right. But we all need that, right? We all want one of those for everything. I get the rights back to the Black in a year and a half. And when that happens, if I've got the 5th book done, then I think we'll probably be doing a massive anniversary
re-release. Dun, dun, dun.
Well, what I want to do is basically put it together and then release every book or release the books, 3 to 6 months apart. And then just bang, bang, bang and go after it. Do the same thing with Derelict once I get it back.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
One of the things that I learned early on that I paid attention to, and I bless wherever I heard it from, is I've made use of my mailing list early on. I'm so happy that I made good use of them and grew the mailing list in an organic way, because my mailing list is what made me a successful professional writer, I think, other than writing something that people actually want to read. Sometimes you wonder, do I write something that anybody's interested in? It's nice to know that you don't suck that bad. As a writer, that's one of the things that I've learned that I'm happy with.
I know some folks who, my wife is kind of one of them, use KDP Unlimited and just go crazy with all the books. And I really don't hear that many complaints from her that saying this book sucks or that book sucks or anything else. That's decent stories out there.
It's like streaming on television. You watch it to the point where you're like, meh, you drop it and move on to the next one.
Yeah, because it doesn't cost you anything to do that. It's an all-you-can-eat buffet. Mm-hmm. So as a reader, that's great. As a writer, it sucks.
Unless you have 2/3 of your income come in through Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah, but only shitheads like you have that.
Certain genres have a lot better luck, and I'm lucky that I write in one that does.
Yeah, you are. You are. I might get there eventually. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
One of the things that I wish I'd learned earlier, and I still haven't actually put it into practice, is effective advertising. Some people use Facebook ads very adroitly to either bring people into their main series or to grow their mailing list. Mm-hmm. And I have not been good about that. I'm taking Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course, and I still have to finish going through there. But I've stopped the single Facebook ad and the single Amazon ad that I've been running for 18 months. And I'm not going to start them again until I actually go through these courses and figure out how to do it right.
Gotcha. Makes sense. It makes sense.
I'm just throwing my money away.
I'm not going to get on my political soapbox about why I will not do anything with Facebook, but
I understand. Are you saying you won't do anything with ads, period? Or
on Facebook, I will not do jack shit with Facebook as far as ads or anything else. Mark Zuckerberg goes suck a turd. But the Amazon, I'm still kind of up in the air on that.
It makes a notable difference. When I stopped the ads, even though they're not performing that great, when I stopped them, I could see a noticeable drop off in the daily sales, enough to say that $5 a day was making more than $5 a day.
Well, I'm in that weird spot where my most popular series are not under my control. So I've got a completely, different problem set than you do.
Control is very important. And since one of the things that I'm glad that I maintained.
And since the people who have control of my books are fucking doing their jobs, that's kind of where we are. So it's not.
But you'll get back what you have with them in a year and a half.
For the Black, yeah.
How much longer after that for the other one?
For Derelict, 5 years.
5 years, man.
Maybe 4 now.
It's time to write a completely different series set in the same universe with Larry the wizard at Pigwarts.
Pigwarts. No, I mean the thing is the G books that I have planned And if you've read Derelict, you know who that is and what that name is. Although you haven't met that person, obviously. But those are the ones I really want to write after Derelict. That one and the mystery novel that takes place about 50 years after the Derelict saga. So that's kind of where I really want to plant my signpost. But since I don't have rights to those, I may just write them and deliver them Patreon versus in serial fashion or something, and see how people like them. And when I get my rights back, then maybe I'll have a couple books in there worth, which will not hurt me at all. But if I have that for the podcast, and I have that for everything else, then why not? But I want to get those 2 series finished so I can truly move on to something else and just be done.
Yeah.
Because it's always there in my head. Those stories just will not stop bothering me. So it's like, all right, fine. I just need to give in and finish the goddamn things, and then I can move on.
Another thing that I learned is watching Glenn Stewart and how he is always bouncing around between different series. I'm one of these people that I don't end series. The series, my ideas of what go on there just keep going. But I need to have more of them. I need to have more series that I'm actually writing in. And I'm now working on that. With Imperial Marines out, I've got what's going to be 3 active series that I can bounce back and forth between. It's been a year and a half since I've published a Humanity Unlimited book, but it'll be soon that I'll be writing the next one in that as well. And then I'll have 3 series that I'm writing in.
I doubt I'm ever going to do a saga again. I doubt it's ever going to happen again. And the reason why is because you can't really do that. You can't switch series when you've got that on there, because it pisses people off like you wouldn't fucking believe. And I realized that after that particular deal that I'm just not going to do it again. Plus, it keeps me from starting another series. I mean, I would love to put out a Tony Downs Fiends universe book, a Tony Downs Fiends Garaga universe book every year, and followed by at least one sci-fi horror book and maybe some fantasy horror or something else. I would love to just kind of do that.
The reason it worked like for Glenn is because he wraps up his work on a novel in about a month and a half, about 45 days. Mm-hmm. So when you're that prolific, you can bounce around.
Yeah. If it takes you a while to do 100,000 words, it takes you a while to do 100,000 words. Mm-hmm. And then Garaga help you. What do you do when it turns into 150?
Yikes. That's a problem. Yeah. I hope that I can manage to avoid.
I don't think I'm going to avoid it. I'm pretty sure the final black book is going to be at least 150. What I have planned.
Yikes.
Yeah, I've already written
the current Empire book that I'm working on. My target was 100,000 words. I'm not sure I'm going to make it to 100,000 words. It may be 90,000 by the time.
Is that a problem, though?
I don't know. The end may be abrupt.
On purpose?
Events may germinate a little faster than I originally thought they were. I may cook this firecracker off a little sooner than I'd anticipated. I think I have a plan in mind to deal with it, but events are progressing at a growing quicker rate. I think I'm at the 60% book, but the pacing feels like I'm at the 70 to 80% mark. Your sound just went out.
Sounds to me like if you feel like you're moving too fast, you may need to slow down a little bit.
I'm not at a portion of the book where I can slow down the events in question. The grenade has already released the handle.
There's about 15,000 words of Trident that is just it's just nonstop. There's nothing I can do about it either. I mean, it's just like, well, we got all this shit happening at the same time. Let's go. And it's I try and put it in as many slowdowns as possible, but there's really when everybody's When everybody's doing something that is highly dangerous or they're under attack all at once, you kind of don't have many of those opportunities. So kind of have to do it. What you do what you have. Deal with what you have. God, I can't talk.
The title of this novel is When Luck Runs Out. At least that's the working title. And everybody's luck is in the process of running out.
Nope. Everybody forgot to I can't talk. Everybody forgot to bring their diamond shamrocks. Is that what you're telling me?
No, they just had runs of good luck. Over the last dozen novels, things have worked out pretty well the way they might have wanted, and they're headed for a place where things are not what they would hope for.
Is it going to change the universe at all?
This book is going to change this universe.
Oh, now we're talking. Now we're getting into meat.
I'm going to put it this way. This book, or if things go really bad, the next book, are going to end the main character, the main story arc that started off Empire. There are things that have to go on past that. But I'm at the point where that large story arc of dealing with the artificial intelligences is coming to a close.
Had to at some point.
Yeah, nothing lasts forever. If you drag it out to the point where it seems like you're dragging it out, then people aren't going to enjoy it. Things have to come to a close. Now, the consequences of dealing with those things are going to propel these characters deeper into the story.
Oh, of course.
Their story is not done.
It's just this current. You just basically had a 12-book season is what you've had.
Pretty much.
In season 2, shit gets really weird.
Well, I'm writing book 13, so, that made total sense with book 13 to have luck run out because unlucky 13. There you are.
For some reason, I like book 5s. Book 5s, I don't know what it is, man. It's like I'm in love with Penta. 5, the 5th book, you have to get really ugly, down and nasty, dirty, horrible, do awful things to your characters. Some of them won't survive. Some of them will wish they hadn't.
I have done things to my main character in this novel that I'm going to wager no one has seen coming.
More fodder for the post show.
It's still the same fodder. It's still the same fodder for the post show. Events in this book took an early turn that you don't often see in operatic space opera, or I guess it's all operatic space opera, in operatic science fiction.
Was that intentional?
It kind of was. And I used what I did as the springboard to the one plot line that is non-standard that is I'm going to have to wind back into the rest. But I used it in a way that it's just so strange that I'm having a lot of fun with it. And I don't know where it's going to go from there. It's going to be fun.
I think the reason I stopped reading God damn it, what's it called? The freaking show. The books, Leviathan Wakes. The Expanse, thank you. I think the reason I stopped reading The Expanse is I didn't like the way the universe changed after book 3. The universe changed, the story changed, and suddenly it just wasn't as compelling to me at all. So how do you make the decisions on what to change in the universe?
Again, I write for me. What do I think would make the universe more interesting? Often it's not what I think will make the universe more interesting. I'll usually write what I think makes this book more interesting. And then I have to deal with the consequences of having made that change. And sometimes the consequences of that are setting that on the shelf and pretending it didn't exist for a while I go do other things.
Yep.
Like you're watching episodes of Star Trek and you go, whatever happened with that thing they did? The writers just put it away and pretended it never happened because they went on to other things. And I don't intend to necessarily ignore things that I've done, but sometimes what I've done is not something that's prudent to continue in that particular storyline unless I come back to it.
There's always little things that you drop. I think if you close up all the threads, I think you should always have some gossamer hanging around, and you and I do that kind of subconsciously anyway. We'll mention something and then move the hell on. And people are like, are we coming back to that? Maybe, maybe not, but it's there for a reason. I don't know why yet, but it's there for a reason.
I had a book, 7, 8, 9, I can't remember which, but it's been 4 or 5 books ago, where I introduced aliens into the universe. And I introduced a bombshell with those aliens, and I've never gone back to it. But I'm going to be dealing with the consequences of that in a way before very much longer.
Mm-hmm.
So you can always draw the consequences back in. And to be fair, when I say that I'm going to be dealing with them, I may not be dealing with them. I may have someone else dealing with them.
Mm-hmm. The thick plottings.
Mm-hmm. I need to get off my dead ass and deal with that.
Yeah, get off your dead ass and deal with that.
You know, there's such a big difference between having a large body of work and being established than not. Once you're established as a writer, this brings us back into something else that we need to talk about. When I started, while I was certainly part of the community, I didn't really know anybody. Now I know a lot of writers. I've worked with some of those writers, and collaboration is something that I never really considered when I was beginning. Now that I've done it some, I need to do more of it. A lot of writers can successfully collaborate on some projects. And it's easy to get lost into being afraid of tying up part of what you're doing in a collaboration because you don't know how it's going to turn out. You don't know how working with someone else, especially if they're in your intellectual property, how that's going to work out. But you've got to get over it. You've got to write a decent contract that protects both parties involved and gets both parties what they're looking for out of it, and not be afraid of inviting other voices in to work on your stuff. And I'm at the place where I need to go ahead and finish working on that contract and talk to the person that I've talked with about writing in the universe that I've created. There's a story to be told. I don't have the time to tell that story. As prolific as I am, I don't have the time to tell that story. One of the secrets of being a writer is you will never catch up with your imagination. You will never do it. You will come up with, you are a font of ideas and story and plot and characters, and there is absolutely no way that you can do justice to any of it. And it's okay.
I still need to write about the Martian Rebellion. I still need to write about the satellite war, whatever the hell that is. And then I also need to write about SNR Red and SNR Blue. So that's probably 120,000 minimum words right there that would close up the entire Derelict saga, the whole mess, the whole shooting match. So those are the thing. But do I have time to write them? I don't know.
I almost pulled the trigger on doing it a year and a half, 2 years ago. But I got cold feet when I started thinking about how what we were talking about writing directly affected my main plot lines. And I didn't want to tie up, I didn't want to even muddy the waters with the intellectual property involved with there. If you don't understand copyright and intellectual property, that's one of the things as a writer you need to educate yourself on.
Yes.
It's not something to be afraid of. It's something that you can use to your benefit as a writer, but you have to understand it. And you have to be able to either write a contract that will protect everybody involved when you start messing with those things, or talk to somebody that can write that contract for you. Just because you're writing a contract doesn't mean that you're trying to screw somebody over. You have to go into a deal, even though say I was going to write something with you, which that's not on the boards right now. So I don't want to start any rumors. That's not what we're talking about. We're using
There are no rumors. There are no rumors.
If I was going to write something with you, I trust you implicitly. However, I have to write the contract as if you were going to get run over by a bus and it's your hateful cousin Ernie that inherits your intellectual property. I hope you don't have a cousin named Ernie, because that would be awkward.
No, I do not have a cousin named Ernest unless somebody's just, throwing them away and never told anybody about it.
A contract is written as if it's between two people that don't know one another.
Correct.
Even though you do, your intellectual property lasts 70 years after your death. And you've got to take that into account when you're writing these contracts. If I was going to write that contract to have somebody write novels in the Empire of Bones series, or at least in the universe anyway, I've got to make sure that I write the contract so that if that person is run over by a bus, I can pick up that story afterwards.
Right.
The characters don't just die on the vine.
Yep.
It's a living universe. I've got to be able to continue it on. If, say, the author writes 4 books, happy, fabulous, great, hits it big, becomes the next Brandon Sanderson, they're not going to have time to write in my universe.
That is correct.
And I've got to be able to pick it up afterwards. So I've got to be able to write a contract that protects their right to get paid while it protects my right
to
keep my sandbox intact and allows me to continue telling stories if the collaborators part ways. That's the way this has to work. And I can write a contract like that. I really can. I've just got to do it. I took a course from Dean Wesley Smith talking about shared worlds, but it's dragged out. Haven't seen any of the contracts that I expected to see in that. His life has become busy. COVID has really messed everything up. And so I've got to go ahead and I've got to come up with something myself. And then what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to ask an author friend who has some experience with being a lawyer to give me a little advice on what they think about it. And I'm just going to have to trust that I've done well enough.
Well,
Did somebody sue me about it later on? Probably so. But welcome to the litigious society in which we live.
Yeah, don't you be...
If you go into these kind of things and try to honestly cover the other person so you're not screwing them, if you're writing a contract so that both parties are happy with what they're getting out of it, the odds of actually getting into litigation over it are very small. If I come up with a decent contract to cover a co-writer in my universe, maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't work out, but I don't think that as long as both parties are acting in good faith, there's that much of a risk that you're going to get sued.
No, my biggest fear of doing the collaboration is trying to herd the cats that are inevitably involved in that. Because I co-wrote with someone, and it wasn't a bad experience. It just wasn't what I expected it to be. So I'm still kind of figuring out how I would do it if I was going to do it. But I would certainly like to have a much more rigid scope of work and what the expectations are and what needs to happen. What that person needs to
Delivery dates are important.
And delivery dates are kind of important. And communication is extremely important.
I've had some experience working with Glenn Stewart on working in a collaborative world, especially where I came in as the junior partner. And that was a very educational experience. It was a rewarding and educational experience.
It was really fun playing in somebody else's sandbox. It was really fun.
I really wish that I was writing something that wasn't based off of something that had been done when they were 18. There's nothing wrong with the collaboration that I did with Glenn, but it came into it with certain limitations already there. I was writing in his sandbox with a work that was having to be rewritten, and so that imposed its own challenges.
Yeah, it's kind of a different experience than starting something fresh. But
Yeah.
Larry Niven, Jerry Pournelle did many books together, including The Mote in God's Eye, which if you have never read that, you really need to read that freaking book. Sequel, not so much, but that one you really need to read. Let's see who else is in that. The guys who wrote Relic.
Jerry Pournelle and S.M. Sterling wrote a number of books together. I'm pretty sure that I have them right. The Mercenary, Falkenberg's Legion. Maybe I've got the wrong names. Now I'm gonna have to look on my shelf here and see. Pournelle wrote Falkenberg's Legion, but I don't remember. Yeah, Pournelle and S.M. Sterling wrote some of the books in that universe together, and they were excellent books. They were wonderful books. I loved them.
I was thinking of Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. Those are the two that I regularly read, and I haven't read them in a while because it just kind of went off the rails for me. But they both write other books outside of one another, but they're never going to be as popular on their own as they are together, because when they come together and do it, it's just special. It's just, I don't know what it is, but they create just a wonderful setting, wonderful characters until I got sick of it, until it jumped the shark for me. But their older works just were fantastic. Reliquary, fantastic books. Dragon, whatever it was called, I can't remember that one. That was good. I can't remember the name of it. That they just did several that were like that, and they were all really good stories. And those two work fantastic together. And that's just got to be really cool when you get to the point where, somebody ends a sentence and the other person just picks it up and runs away with it. I mean, I don't know how they write together. I don't know how it works because I don't remember talking.
I don't know. I'm going to have the conversation again with the co-author when I get something written in a contract. But the stories that would be picked up are threads that I've left undone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's not quite the same thing as taking something that's already written, but it means that I'm going to have to modify my expectations of where the universe goes. I'll have walls in the sandbox at that point, because once the other person is writing with certain characters doing certain things, I have to be cognizant not to go like a four-wheeler running across somebody's garden. Not that I have any experience with anything like that, mind you.
Stop trampling on their roses. You're a bad neighbor.
But it's definitely, when you're working with somebody else, you have to be cognizant of the constraints that you're working under. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's got to be laid down very, 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 very early to make sure that everybody's on board.
Early and often is very important.
Early and often. Yeah, that's I'll jump into that. I'll probably jump into that pool at some point. And no, do not send me emails that you're interested.
But I really want to write the next Paul E. Cooley collaboration.
No. You go away. I have other things to do right now. You go away. And we'll talk to the appropriate person when it is time.
Have your people talk to my people.
Have your people talk to my people. They can have a big shindig together and figure out what the hell's going on. And then you guys tell me what you're writing.
If only I had people.
If only I had minions. I have minions. They're spread across all over the place, but I do have minions. I don't use them that much.
I think that collaboration is one of the things that you have to get over fear with. Fear stops you from doing so many things as a writer. If you learn that if you try it, you're not going to kill yourself, you'll be a much happier writer. I agree. Perhaps don't be the one that fears to go where rushes in where angels fear to tread. Maybe that's not right, but don't be afraid of trying things. If you fail to do something as a writer, then you end up with like a couple of books that I've written that have sold so little that nobody really even knows they exist. And that's okay. They were experiments that didn't quite work out the way I wanted for various reasons. One, I think, is a cover. I really do need to have somebody else do a post-apocalyptic cover, because my wife can do science fiction post-apocalyptic, not so much. That didn't work out so well. But and the other one,
all you need is a mushroom cloud and some bones on the ground and some asshole dressed in tattered rags with 14 guns on his back.
Yeah, tried that and it didn't really sell. So apparently that's not working out as far as that. Even though the people that have read it said it's a great post-apocalyptic story, but it didn't sell, and I'm going to blame the cover for that. My lack of understanding of covers in the genre is what doomed that particular book. And I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to write it in again, but this time, before I do, I'm going to have the cover done by somebody that knows post-apocalyptic covers before I do it.
Yeah, makes sense.
The other one, Storm Divers, just never struck. Don't know why. It got decent reviews, but nobody ever read it.
I read it. I beta read it.
It was good.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good story. Didn't work out.
It was interesting.
But I'm not going to let it stop me as a writer.
Yeah. Why would you?
Sometimes you try something as a writer and it doesn't work. You set it aside. You move on. It's not going to kill you. Don't be terrified that you're going to write a book that fails. When I was starting out writing, I was being laid off from work. And that's a lot of pressure to have as a writer. I couldn't find a job to replace the one that I was leading in. Even though I knew for almost a year and a half that I was going to be laid off, I didn't have anything to replace it with.
Every week when we were doing DRS back then, Terry would be like, well,
they've extended the layoff date again.
They keep extending. Well, they extended like 5 times or something.
They did. The original 3-month notice stretched out to almost a year and a half.
Good night, Terry. I'll most likely kill you in the morning.
That's pretty much how I felt too. Good night, Wesley.
Most likely kill you in the morning.
But where was I going with this? That's so funny that I totally lost track of what I was saying.
Pressure.
It was a lot of pressure to be under as a writer. And I was terrified that the next thing that I was going to write, I was going to do something wrong, and it was going to not only doom me as a writer, but meant that I couldn't pay my mortgage and I'd lose my house.
Yeah.
That is not the kind of pressure you need to have on yourself as a writer. So first of all, if you're going to become a full-time writer, oh my gosh, please have more money in the bank than I did. Please just.
And it would also help to have a few books out already. I think that usually helps. Because I think first-time novelists who have their first book out, I think that's.
I shared a graphic of my earnings since I started publishing the Empire series. And the first 3 years, those first 5 books, those numbers, those little peaks and valleys were way close to the zero line. But with every release, it becomes easier to survive as an author. Now I've got 18 novels that I've put out under my own name, and I can survive. I'm at that point to where even minimal earnings on each of them is enough when added together that as long as I'm being productive, I can continue to survive as a writer. And that's something to remember. It's not how many books you sell out of a particular title. It's how many books you can write and produce. Those, if you're doing them faster than I did 4 or 5 a year. Obviously, I've been writing 6 years and I've got 18 books. That's probably 3 books a year. Yeah. I could do much better than that. And I would be happier if I was 2 or 3 books more a year than that. I'd certainly be further along as a writer, as far as being able to pay the bills and be sure that I've got stability in my life. That's one of the lessons I wish I'd learned early. You get so busy when you publish something and you say, oh, look at the success I'm having with that. That makes you want to slow down. And that's the absolute wrong thing to do. Because by the time you're done writing the book, it's gone. That bump, it's gone. You better have something else ready to come out in 2 or 3 months or your ass is grass.
We've been talking for a long ass time, brother.
We have, but we've only been talking for the actual show for a little bit more than an hour.
Exactly.
So there is that. We haven't dragged ourselves, on for hours in front of the show here.
Not yet.
There's so many lessons that I've learned doing this that I really can't put into words because it's all experience. As you do these things, make note of what works for you and what doesn't work for you, because it's important. It really is. I've let it subconsciously sink into my body and my mind, and that's how I've changed as a writer. I might have done this a little bit better if I had made more cohesive notes as I was going along.
Oh, plus, I don't know. Notes about your universe.
Yeah, if you're going to do something with a series, why don't you go ahead and start that story Bible with book 1?
Yeah.
Don't start when you've finished 7 books, 8. That's bad. Don't be 3 books behind like I currently am.
What I'm hearing is don't be Terry. That's what I'm hearing over and over again is don't be younger Terry.
There's an awful lot of don't be Terry in there. But there's plenty of things that I have done that you could emulate. Perseverance. Yeah. Perseverance is really critical as a writer. If you learn nothing else from me, pick yourself up, dust yourself off when you do something that you didn't like, and move on to the next thing. It's always about the next thing. Always be closing.
You know what got me back into writing Derelict so fast?
Drug addiction?
No.
The need for booze?
No.
What?
Was the fact that it's not going to be published. So it can suck. Everything's allowed to suck at this point because none of those books are going out to the general public. They're only going to be on the podcast and Patreon. And if people don't like them, fuck them. It is what it is. But the fact that there's no pressure to, I know I'm not going to make money on them. So basically I just want to finish the stories. I just want to get them done. And without having to worry about them, whether or not they're going to make money, it's easier to write them. I don't know. Maybe that'll all end when I get to Extinction for the Black. Who knows? But we'll see how big that book is. I have really insane plans for it, and I just don't know if I'm gonna be able to pull it off.
If you don't, we'll see. That's not a problem.
No,
people
not
will
really.
Read it and they'll come on for the next thing.
Yeah, my Black will be done. I'll have all that put over there.
Just remember, everything you do is so that your kiddies can live the life that they deserve.
As the tabby starts howling. We're ready to wrap up.
That's probably a good place to wrap this up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you have a comment on this episode, question, or complaint, you can send an email to show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can tweet me at Paul_E_Cooley. Wow, I don't know how to do this anymore. You can join us at Facebook and listeners, the Dead Robot Society Facebook group, where crazy happens. We have to thank our wonderful host, pod hoster, who makes all 14 bazillion episodes of the Dead Robot Society available for your ear holes. You can find us on youtube.com/DRS podcast to see our ugly mugs and also catch, that's where the live shows are posted from this summer so far. If you want to go see that, I really should have done a better job of promoting that. Sorry. And if you want to support the show, you can also find us at patreon.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to exclusive content and also help us pay the bills for the podcast, which we really appreciate. And at the $10 level, you get your name read. It's so sexy.
I'm surprised at this point we still have any $10 patrons left.
Yeah. What is wrong with you people? Don't you know have better things to do? Our $10 patrons are Joshua Sylvester. You know what I really hate? They changed this interface, and now I can't see all the damn names. They've got them cut off, so I'm going to do my best here. Tony L. Joy, Andrew Smallwood, Veronica Jaguar, J.D. Barker, Rick Shaw, Nathan Cosby, Drew Bernardi, Chris Winder, and Isabel Cushy. Thank you very much, folks, and thank you to all of our patrons for making this show possible. We appreciate it.
We actually totally do.
And on that note, we should probably say goodbye. Do you have any parting words, Terry? Do I dare ask?
Just keep writing.
Just keep writing. That sounds good enough. All right, folks. Till next week. We'll see ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.